Alright everyone, this is Lab 1C. This is our attack system configuration. Through this module here, we're going to take some time to configure our network interface card with a static address. We're going to learn some of the basic commands that we're going to use in Linux for our labs coming up, as well as how we're going to record our progress when we're doing penetration testing or using different tools and such. A couple things to keep in mind. This lab, as we start off, we are going to want to be into a bridged mode for a network. So if we come back over here, we check our network adapter. You want to be bridged, and go ahead and hit the place the check and replicate the physical network as well. Hit OK. If you're not set like this, adjust it and hit OK. It should set on the fly. If you have not adjusted anything up to this point, you may have been sitting in a NAT mode, which would work as well, but let's put it in bridge. That way we're going to keep everything consistent throughout all of our labs. Logging in. Once you left click inside the VM window, you'll have control over top of your VM environment. Okay. Your username is root, R-O-O-T. Your password is Tor. Root backwards, it's T-O-O-R. That should authenticate you into our Kali Linux environment. It should get you a desktop. And as I mentioned, when you left click inside your VM, you'll get control of your VM. Okay? To release control back onto your host environment to control things on your desktop that you're using or your laptop you're using, you want to hit the control key and the alt key at the same time on the keyboard. You're going to notice my mouse cursor will change when I do that, and it takes me back to actually controlling my desktop environment. Click back inside here and I have control over top of this again. One of the first things we should get familiar with Kali is the apt tool, APT. This is the advanced packing tool. This is a tool that we will use to get access to software, upgrading packages. We're going to install Nessus in a lab. We'll need to update Metasploit as we do further labs. We want to get familiar with that environment and exactly how to not only customize our Kali Linux environment, but keep it current and up to date. You are required to have an internet connection at this time, as we're going to connect to external repositories to actually get a hold of software. Keep in mind as we do these commands, Linux is case sensitive. So I'm going to click on this guy right here. That opens up a terminal window for me. Now once I'm inside here, there are a couple different commands that we could use. First we'll start with apt-get and several options that you'll be able to use within here. Pages 14 and 15 of your lab manual, as well as I believe your text, is going to go through a lot of these options. Update as an example, apt-get space update. Update is going to allow us to confirm and update packages that are installed on our operating system. You could use the upgrade tool. The upgrade is basically going to download and install new versions of already installed software. There's a distribution upgrade, which is similar to a Windows Service Pack, if you're familiar with that, where you'll actually upgrade the Kali Linux OS. We'll have options in here for remove and auto remove, purge, clean, auto clean for removing packages and such. Let me walk you through the very basics that we'll use in order to get our Kali system current. First things first, apt-get update, hit enter. It's going to go out and basically verify what packages, software, dependencies and such we have on our current system. It's going to fetch any updates that are out there. As we can see, 16.6 megs and updates were required. Pulled it down and some of our packages are now updated. We also want to get a hold of a text editor. We have Nano on here. I would like to use gedit. It's just something that I prefer to use. So apt-get install, and then we're going to name the actual software package that we want to install, which is gedit. Hit enter. It's ran out. It looked at the repositories. It said, alright, cool, here's the thing. I can get you gedit. It's going to require a couple other packages to go with it, so there's going to be 3 newly installed applications. We are not going to remove anything, and 285 packages are not going to be upgraded. So to do this, we're going to need 15 megs of space. Are you okay with that? Yes. Hit enter and let it update. It's going to download everything and it will install our software for us. One other piece of software that I would like for us to get: if you hit your up arrow in your keyboard, it takes you back to the apt-get install. Just go ahead and backspace so we can leave it at apt-get install and type in shutter, S-H-U-T-T-E-R. Hit enter. Ran out to the repository, found some things that need to be installed, and it's letting you know, hey, this is going to take 37.5 megs of additional space. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes. Hit enter. This guy's going to update. At this point in time, you have installed 2 different applications or packages on your Kali system. Congratulations. Let me pause this here until we are finished. And after a couple minutes here, Shutter has been downloaded, installed. Any dependencies that are required have been installed as well, and we're good to go. One last thing that we want to run, I'm going to hit the up arrow again, and it's going to be apt-get, type in auto clean. What auto clean is basically going to do for us, it will actually remove any older versions of software that we may have just now installed newer versions for. In other words, when it installs a version of software, it does not necessarily go and remove the older version prior to putting it on. It'll place the new one on, and any dependencies it needs, it will leave the older ones behind. This auto clean function is pretty nice because it allows us to keep our disk usage kind of at a minimum. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here. As you can see, it didn't take very long to complete. What we are not going to do at this time is we're not going to do any upgrades or distro upgrades. I would suggest that at the completion of our lab modules and the completion of this course, to go through and play around with these Kali management skills, basically these different tools that you have available to you. Understand how to use apt-get, understand when you use auto removes and cleans and upgrades, distro upgrades. We have plenty of that stuff in the lab manual explanation behind it. We have a textbook that will explain it. Get familiar with it. At this time, let's get our system back into a host-only environment as we have what we need here. I'm going to hit this down menu over here. Head over to Manage, Virtual Machine Settings. I'm going to take my bridge setting and I'm going to change this to a host-only setting. Now, you can try ifconfig, etho down, etho up, things of that nature. I have seen inconsistencies with the VMware player where it will actually restrict your network access at that point once you do that. My personal suggestion would be, once we change a setting for a network connection on our attack system, just to type in reboot, let the system reboot and get itself prepared. After you type in the command, you're going to see it's going to run through this series here of stopping services, shutting down the OS, rebooting the OS, and bringing you back up to a login prompt. Once the system has finished rebooting, you'll come back to the desktop environment here. You'll be able to log in. Type in root, password of Tor, hit enter. This is going to bring us to a desktop. First thing that we'll want to do is to confirm that we are in a sandboxed environment, that we are sitting host only. We have no internet-based connection. We do not want access to the outside world at this point in time, or to a local network that we may be attached to. Alright, so we'll try to confirm if we have a network connection or not. We can ping a site if we want to try that. We also, if you open up this icon right here, Iceweasel, it opens up your web browser, and you simply click on this aircrackng. That's trying to take you to http aircrackng.org. So that should fail. Server not found, so we cannot get off-site to that. Let's go ahead and look at our network configuration that we have available to us. Open the terminal window. From your terminal window, we're going to basically jump in, look at our actual network configuration on the system, and see what we're looking at. You might be familiar with ipconfig off of Windows systems. For the Linux system, it's ifconfig. If you do a space -a, this gives us our MAC address here. Etho 0 is what we're looking at. LO is for our loopback. This is the one we're concerned with right here. Our iNet address is 192.168.40.128. Broadcast is 192.168.40.255. It gives us our Class C mask and tells us what we're working with right now. Take a moment to jot down this address right here. Whatever shows up, yours might not be .40 here in the third octet. Write down what you have. 192.168 something dot something. Also, make sure you write down your mask, your broadcast, so you kind of know what it is that you're working with here. Once you have those down and ready to go, we're going to do a CD, which means basically we're going to move ourselves into a different directory. So we're going to choose directory /etc/network. This places us into our Etsy network directory, and you can use ls. ls is a listing for what is available inside of that directory. This is what we're looking for right here. We want this interfaces file. Before we touch that interfaces file though, let's make a copy of it so that we don't mess anything up. cp space -r interfaces to interfaces.bak. In this command, we're telling it to copy recursively the interfaces file to an interfaces.bak, so as a backup file. And interfaces, I cannot type. Now I do an ls again. I should have two files in here. You notice that I have an interfaces and an interfaces.bak file. All we just did was create a backup file of this just in case we goof anything up. Typos happen, things happen. Let's make sure that we protect ourselves. Now at this point in time, we can begin editing this original interfaces file by typing in gedit interfaces. So gedit is going to look for a file titled interfaces in our current working directory. And you can see here that what we have available to us is our network interface, our primary Etho interface, is set right now with a DHCP address, meaning every time this system boots up, this system is going to be assigned a DHCP address that may be the same as what it was last time, that may be different from what it was last time. For us and our purposes, for what we want to do, we want to make sure that we adjust this to a static address just to prevent our system from communicating with a DHCP server. Think of it from this standpoint. You're hired as an EH, you walk onto a site, you're going to do some pen testing, you're going to test this network out, see how secure it is. Well, in that process, you might have been hired by management and you're not trying to alert IT that you're in there to actually do any work. So you want to keep a low profile. To do so, you don't necessarily want your system booting up on their network, asking for a DHCP address from a server, having that data recorded, you getting an address back, and in the meantime your hardware address has now been recognized. Staff may be alerted that, hey, this is a MAC address we're not familiar with. You never know what kind of security they may have in place. All in all, you do not want to have your system recorded on the network. So what you would end up doing is creating a static address that when you boot your system up, you'll get direct access to the network and be able to begin testing. What I want you to do is click right above here, hit enter to create a space, and type in auto ETH0 This next line where DHCP is here, remove DHCP and type static. You're saying, hey, I want auto configuration for this this interface here. I want this interface to use a static address, not a DHCP address. And when you do that, now the system wants to know, okay, that's great, but now I need to know what address I should assign to it. Assign an address. You can even assign exactly what you had available previously, but it should be, let's click back over here. It should be within, it has to be within the same range. And the reason why we're going to create a static in this range, because if host only is dumping us into this network, we want to make sure when our target systems boot up that we're existing in the same network as our target systems. So we're going to create a static that's going to leave us there. We'll do a net mask value. This is our network mask, which in this case is 255.255.255.0. We will also want a gateway specified, and our gateway in this instance will be a 192.168.40.1. It's your typical VMware is going to assign 1.2 address may be used as well. We're going to shoot with .1, and I think we're going to be good to go there. At this point, we need to save this interfaces file. So go ahead and hit save. We have now we overwrote the initial interfaces file that was there. But remember, we do have a backup if we ever need that. From this point, we're going to need to reboot to make sure that our settings remain in effect. So type in reboot. System is going to halt, it's going to come back up, and we will jump back into our Etsy directory and we will confirm the static assignment on our interface card. Alright, my system is just about done rebooting now. I have a login screen. Remember your credentials to access the system. And this step here, when we get here, this is going to be a deliverable. This is something that you're going to have to submit to me for our lab in module 3. We have a few deliverables for this module here, but you're basically going to submit proof of a host only environment. So take a screenshot capture of your VM settings being these guys here. Show me this host only configuration. Just want to confirm that you are comfortable with moving back and forth and you know how to do that, because it is required for the class. And I want to see the results from an ifconfig /A. I'd like to see the address that you have listed in there. At the same time, if you click on File, select New tab, I would like you to browse back to your Etsy network directory, and once again show me your interfaces file. This is what I want to confirm, that you have assigned a static address. So you're going to take a screenshot of this, a screenshot of this. That will confirm to me that you have set a static address. And I would like you to take a screenshot of your host only configuration as well. Alright, so I know that we had just gone through some work and placed our attack system into a static IP address assignment, but I've noticed some inconsistencies with VMware Player. I'm used to VMware Workstation where I can specify my own subnet, dump these guys in there, specify one as a static and the others as DHCP, and I'm normally really good to go. With VMware Player, different times when I've started this system, it has used a different subnet. And what's going to happen is if we leave a static on this attack system and it ends up becoming a network subnet that is outside the range of our address, then our attack system will not talk to our target systems. We don't want that. That's going to be a big headache down the road. So what we're actually going to end up doing is we're going to revert this guy back to a DHCP just by remarking out a couple lines inside our interfaces file. All is not lost. I think this was good practice for us to go through and see within a Linux environment how to set a static IP. So I think it's very useful knowledge that you guys just got. But let's, for the sake of this class and this lab and more labs to come, let's go ahead and set this back to a DHCP assignment. To do so, we're going to browse into our Etsy network directory, as this is where our interfaces file is located at. From there, we can simply gedit the interfaces file. Let's go ahead and place a pound and type in mark out static assignment settings. And to actually remark these out, we put a pound in front of each one of these. And what's happening there is anything with a pound, the interfaces file, it will be ignored when the interfaces file is read. So we're going to remark those out and get rid of those. Now we're going to go back and we're going to type in iface etho 0. If you happen to have etho 1 in here, then make sure you're doing iface etho 1, but most should be using etho 0. Or eth0, excuse me, Ethernet 0. iface Ethernet 0, inet DHCP. As simple as that. You hit save, you're good to go. You can also go and grab that interfaces.bak file that we had initially and rename that back and delete this interfaces file. Only catch is if you leave this here, leave your backup over there, you at least have the settings here if you ever need to refer back to them. So with that done, we are now good to go and ready to move on.